Today we're going to talk about how there's a part of us that is very hard for us to explain. Very hard to explain this concept, but then it's very important to understand. What we're talking about today is what we call about there's two types of intelligence. There's what we call intellectual intelligence, and it's called something called emotional intelligence. Do you know what's the difference between intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence? What's the difference?
Before you pay for it, so it's like
Very good. Emotional intelligence is to understand how you feel about something. It's not just how something is linear, which means to say mathematically. It's what is your connection to something, or what's holding you back from something. We might call it intuition. And what's more important in life is the emotional intelligence over the intellectual intelligence. Our decisions are mostly made not in accordance to what makes the most sense, but in accordance to how our emotions they feel about certain things. How we read people. Some people, they don't understand other people's emotions. They don't know how to read another person, how he feels about the relationship. And they could be very annoying when they be like that. Or some people could misread other people, feeling that other people have something against them when they don't have anything against them. So this is called that there's two different types of places of thinking. There's two different places of thinking. Our Torah tells us that the ones who built the Mishkan, how did they build the Mishkan? How did the ones who built the Mishkan build the Mishkan? There were women that they were able to sew and to make tremendous these spiritual creations out of physical things to build the Mishkan. And our rabbis say, you know why? Because they had what we call Hacham Lev. They were smart in their heart. Now, how does that make sense to be smart in the heart? I could understand to be smart in the brain. That the guy has no shots. The guy gets 100 every math test. The guy is able to also be successful in memory of knowing all the things that he was taught. And he did very good in college. This guy is Ivy College level, and he's able to think smarter than the average person. But when it comes to character, this person is totally behind. Okay, you know what that means? What does that mean? There are people who have very bad character. Their character is lacking in the sense that they don't know how to behave in certain ways. They don't pick up the right behavior. A lot of times we have to decide about this in life. Is if we want to hire somebody, and you ask even very important companies, and ask them, what's more important to you? Or somebody who has a very high level degree in college, or somebody who has a good character. They will all pick a good character over somebody with a high level degree in college. And that's what we're talking about over here, that there's a different part of intelligence. There's another intelligence which is called emotional intelligence. Now, what is included in this emotional intelligence? The Torah calls it Hacham Lev. The ones who were able to do the work for building the Mishkan, they were Hacham Lev. They were not smart in their brains necessarily. But even though they didn't know how to make beautiful tapestries because they came out of Egyptian slavery, they came out of being slaves, right? But they have what we call the emotional wisdom of believing in self-belief. And that itself is a wisdom that comes in the heart, that a person can believe in himself. And that's what I want to talk about in today's class, how to discover that. How do you discover and develop the chokhmah of the heart? Because in school, you spend how many years learning how to be a good student? You're spending 12 years going to learn to develop the rational, the linear part of the brain. But when do they help you on your emotional wisdom, of helping you make the right decisions, of helping you know how to deal with people, of helping you know how to believe in yourself? to find your strengths, to understand your weaknesses, to be a person who has hope even though it doesn't look like there is any. And that is all the chokhmah of the heart. And that's our job. Our job is to develop not only the chokhmah of the brain, but also the chokhmah of the heart. You know, a lot of times people don't understand, why do I go to yeshiva? What do I gain by going to yeshiva to learn in yeshiva if I'm not going to ever be a rabbi? And the answer is, like we said last time, that the yeshiva is different than a college. Because a college, they teach you what you could do in life. But when you talk about going to yeshiva, you're not learning what you're going to do in life. You're learning what you're going to be in life. And what you're going to be is going to be your behaviors, who you belong to, your beliefs. All those things turn around when you're connected to it. So if they want to know, what am I doing? Why are you spending so much time there? And the answer is because you're changing not what you do, but you're changing who you are. And that's what it means to say chokhmat lev. Attach, to connect to your heart. And that's what we find over here in the story of Pharaoh and Mitzrayim. We find something that is the same thing we're saying over here also. We see the concept is that it says that Pharaoh, he was warned again and again. He was warned again and again that you better take the Jews out of Egypt. And he's seeing that the warnings are coming true. He's seeing 10 times that he's being warned, and every time he says no. Now, what does that mean he's able to say no? The Torah says, how do you say no? It makes no sense. You're talking about a very smart person. Pharaoh is a person who knew 70 languages. He knew 70 languages. How many languages do you know? 2 languages. How many languages do you know? 2. How many languages do you know? Okay? Pharaoh knows 70 languages. Okay? Now, in those today, even till today, it has been proven that the more languages a person knows, the more he understands a higher vocabulary, he's usually a smarter person. He's able to explain things in a better way because he has a better way of describing and communicating what's on his mind. Now, that there's a wisdom of the communication of Pharaoh. That there's a wisdom that Pharaoh knows how to talk better. Right? This, by the way, is very interesting. If you want to look like a smart person, all you have to do is learn a little bit more vocabulary. It's proven. There's special books that will help you learn, and there's apps that will help you learn a few words that will help you improve your vocabulary. 5 words a day. Learn a few words a day, and all of a sudden, you're ahead of the game. You're considered a smart person. People will never think that you don't have a college education. Why? Because you learned a few words a day. That's all it's about. Learning a few more words. Pharaoh knows 70 languages. And still, he's still making such a stupid choice. How would you go and after you saw that whatever Moshe Rabbeinu says comes true, and you're going to do it again? And then again... And he talks about when Moshe Rabbeinu makes a plague of blood in Egypt. You know what that means? That means for 7 days, there was, even if you squeezed an orange, there was no orange juice in the orange. In the orange, what was there? It was blood. It means that if you squeeze an apple for apple juice, what's inside the apple? Blood. It doesn't make sense. And this from the plague of blood alone, that's where the Jews became rich. It's because the Egyptians, they had to pay money to buy water for 7 days. That made the Jews rich. And even though Pharaoh has all this stuff, he still makes the wrong choice. Unbelievable. You go and you would ask people that are in college, you ask them, well, a smart guy. He went to 4 years of bachelor's, 4 years of master's, and you know what? You can't even ask him for guidance to make a right decision. You know why? Because he's missing sometimes chokhmah in the heart. He has chokhmah in the brain, in the rational, but he's lacking chokhmah in the heart. And that's what we're going to talk to you about today. That it says that Pharaoh, "Vayachbed lev Pharaoh," and the heart of Pharaoh became kaved, became hard. Now, what does that mean? It became hard. It means that part of his brain, his emotional intelligence, was totally off. So even though rationally it made sense, in the heart, didn't make sense. And this is what we find here also, that we see in the Shema. You know why we're not in Eretz Yisrael anymore? In the way it's supposed to be Eretz Yisrael? Of course, people say, we're back in Eretz Yisrael. But look what's going on here. It's not Eretz Yisrael. It's another state of America. Right? If we're doing such a bad deal, 30 hostages, 30 terrorists who don't want to change. They want to stay as they are. We're switching the 30 terrorists for 3 hostages. Why? Because we have to work with America. That means that Israel is just an extension of America.
If the government doesn't allow us to keep our own religion, then it's not actual Israel.
Yeah. So this is not.
It goes against our own religion.
This is not the way of the Torah. This is not a state of the Torah. And this concept that we're talking about, that we're not in Eretz Yisrael, why are we not here? Why were the Jews asked to leave Eretz Yisrael? They were told by the Babylonians, you can't be here anymore. Why? Why were they told by the Romans that you can't be here anymore? You know why? The Torah said. The Torah says that the reason why we're not in Eretz Yisrael, the reason why we're in Galut, is not because that we did something wrong with our brains, with our rational. We did something wrong with our hearts. How do I know that? Because it says in the Pasuk, Hishamru lachem, pen yifteh levavchem. Watch over yourselves, because you might go after your hearts. Visartem va'avatem elokim acharim, and then you'll go off and you start serving other idols. So again, what is it telling you? It's if you're going to go after other idols, then it says Hashem's going to kick you out of the land. It's every day in Shema, 3 times a day in Shema. Watch over your hearts. Why? Because the hearts is what Hashem wants. Because if the person is emotionally connected to the religion, then he's really doing it right. If he's not emotionally connected to the religion, if you don't have his heart, then we're doing something very wrong. And that's why the whole Shema keeps talking about again and again about the hearts. Because it says about you that you have to serve Hashem with all your hearts. Hashem doesn't say that he wants you to bring korbanot every day. He says that he wants you to serve Hashem every day with your hearts. The whole purpose of the Beit HaMikdash was only for what? Because we have a hard time serving Hashem with our hearts every day. We bring a korban to be a way for us in our minds to be able to be connected to our way of serving Hashem. You know, it says that is the way that we start off the Amidah. Why is that the pasuk that we say, Hashem, open up my hearts, open up my lips? Why is that the pasuk that we start off with Amidah every day? Because the pasuk before that in Tehillim is that Hashem says, I love your korbanot. And that pasuk of korbanot is the pasuk that we say, the pasuk after that, to tell Hashem, listen, I can't bring you a korban, but let my lips be my korban. The whole prayer is a korban. Because it's serving Hashem with your hearts. That's what Hashem wants. Even in the Beit HaMikdash, the Mikdash was just a place of hearts. It was a place that we're going to invest our feelings of service. And that's why when we don't serve Hashem with our hearts, when our hearts are not connected, Hashem says, I don't want you in the land. I don't want you in the land. So we see that there's something that Hashem is asking us not only to serve Hashem with the Gemara. He wants us not only to look at the Chumash as a history book, Chas v'shalom to call it that. He wants us to look at the Chumash, every single pasuk is the pasuk of Torah. Torah is the root, hora'ah. It's in the root of showing you the way of living. So every story in the Bereshit is telling you not just a story, but it's telling you how to live. Every part of Shemot is telling you how to live. You know, when I told you Moshe Rabbeinu with his father-in-law, he asked for his father before he goes back to the land of Egypt. And when it says that, Hashem tells Moshe, I want you to bring the plague on Egypt, but I want Aaron to do the makah on the water. I want Aharon to do the makah on the dirt, on the dirt, to make the svardeya, the kinim. Why is it that Aharon has to do it? Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, how am I going to hit the water? How am I going to bring plague of blood to the water, in the water that saved me when I was in the basket? How am I going to bring a plague to the dirt? The dirt that caused me to help me to be able to bury the Egyptian that I killed and saved my life. How I have a karat tov. That's why you're learning these stories. And when you see that the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu asks permission from his father-in-law, why does it say the answer to his father-in-law? The answer is because his father-in-law, Yitro, Moshe Rabbeinu has hakarat tov for him. Now you would say, what do you mean hakarat tov? Hakarat tov for the water? It's not even the same water. The water of the Nile 80 years ago. The Nile went through so many waters since then. The dirt is the same dirt? It's not the same dirt. What do you mean hakarat tov to this? You have hakarat tov to your father? What do you mean? You were the one, Moshe, that you saved Yitro's daughters by the well. So I have hakarat tov to my father. Yitro, he should have hakarat tov to me. We're teaching you how the heart's supposed to be. The heart is supposed to be a heart that is one that looks for gratitude. You know, when you're grateful, when you're unentitled, you know what happens? Something unbelievable happens. You become a happy person. When you're not grateful because you feel like you're entitled, you know what happens? You become a not happy person. Very simple. Happy people are people who are unentitled. And not happy people are people who are entitled. And that's what we're seeing over here also. We're seeing that Moshe Rabbeinu, even though he had a father-in-law, that his father owed him hakarat tov, but that has something to do with the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu has hakarat tov to his father-in-law for giving him his daughter Yitro, Zipporah. So that's what it means, the chokhmah of the heart. The chokhmah of the heart is a chokhmah, where a person, he has inside of him the right things to focus on. Because that's part of the chokhmah of the heart. It's an intuitive wisdom that a person might have. Intuitive intelligence. It's a spiritual intelligence. And that's what we find examples. The Mishnah Avot says that you have a guy who has a good eye. You have a guy who has a good head. But what's most important is what? The person who has a good heart. Right? The Mishnah tells us that the one who says that the good heart, that's more important than all the other things. You know why? Because you have the right intuition. If you know what to focus on, you'll be okay.
You have the right places to go.
You know what to focus on. And what? The way to work on the heart is through Musar. And Musar is the flashlight on your ways of thinking, to question if the ways that you're thinking are really in the line of the Torah. Is my moral according to the morals of the Torah? This is something that it also has to do with the friends that you have. That your friends are going to decide what you think is normal. And that's also part of the heart. What do you feel like you're connecting to? You know, it's not enough before you date that you're going to do the research on that girl, all the background check, that this girl is exactly good for you, because that might be on paper that they work right, but sometimes they go out together and the hearts don't click. There's no chemistry. You know why? Because this guy has in his heart something that's telling him this is not for me. Now he can't explain what it is, but it's a internal heart chokhmah that a person feels. This person drains me. I don't know if you know that there are people in life that are going to sap your joy. People like that in life. There's some people like when you're around them, they give you joy. They give you energy. And you know what? Even there's some people that sometimes they give you joy and sometimes they sap your energy. And you have to know, be smart. Don't let anybody sap your energy. Know when to be around the people that don't sap your energy, and around the people you want to hang around that will give you energy, and will give you joy, and will give you feelings of success. Because that's all the chokhmah of the heart. It's not something that you could explain rationally. Not something that you could explain with words sometimes. It's something you could explain on paper. It's not myth. It's the way that the heart feels. And this wisdom is a wisdom that you could know 70 languages, but miss this. Part of this wisdom is the biggest part of Chokhmat Alev that we have to know is Haro'eh et hanolad. The person who's able is Chacham, Haro'eh et hanolad. The one who is able to see into the future. Now you would ask yourself, now what does that mean to be able to see into the future?
No, if I do this, consequences.
How does a person have? He feels this. He feels it in his heart, and that's the reason why he decides his decision of going forward. And this is something that is something you can only feel that with your heart. Pharaoh didn't see the future. He didn't see the future. You know why? The answer is because when the heart it has certain pleasure, it could hyper-focus in the moment. If the heart has a certain gain, that's why you can have very, very wise men. But if they have some, but if you have some personal gain, sometimes rabbis will hire their children to work for them, even though it's destroying the whole rabbi's career. His whole yeshiva, his whole project. He hired what? Because he says, my son needs a job. Maybe that's not good for the yeshiva. A person can hire. He gets a certain donor. He lets a donor speak in his yeshiva, but that donor has bad records. So I don't say you take and you connect to certain people. You know why? Because you have certain personal gain. You're listening to your heart. You're not listening to your mind. So sometimes the person doesn't get that, and he lets his mind and his heart disconnect. And that's where the parasha is telling us this concept of being able to recognize what our heart really feels. Be able to recognize that we see this week's parasha, last week's parasha, that Yocheved and Miriam, Shifra Pu'ah, they got tremendous reward. Now that's from the only times in the Torah that we see a story that it says clearly in the Torah the reward that they got. What was the reward that they got? Yocheved and Miriam. It says they got Kiuna came out of Yocheved, and out of Miriam came out of Malchut. They came out of David, right? Mashiach. Also, David comes out of Yocheved. Now, how does that make sense? Why are we here? Are we telling the reward and punishment of Yocheved and Miriam? Why is the only place? And the answer is because the whole Sefer Shemot is a sefer to show you reward and punishment. One of the things that holds us back from connecting to our hearts is for us to believe that we have to sometimes move away from the present and to see out of the present moment. And so there's a lot of noise going on. We don't see the whole big picture. That big picture is called Chokhmah of the heart. The Sefer of Shemot is to show you that sometimes you have to look out of the big picture to see that what you do, right, has a reward or punishment that's maybe not immediate, but it's going to be there. And all this is to teach you about the Chokhmah of the heart.